Thursday afternoon here. Mark Abrams joined by the Executive Vice President, Banner Promotions, Mr. Matt Rowland. Talk some boxing. Summer's getting hot and heavy with some big fights. Matt, what's going on?
Same old. How about you? Thanks for having me on.
My
Thanks
honor.
for coming to the office.
For once.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we'll just get right to it. We're 9 days out for the biggest fight of the year. For my money, the best fight that can be made in boxing, Errol Spence Jr. take on Terence Crawford for the undisputed welterweight championship next Saturday night at the T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. I'll be there. Live on pay-per-view. Matt, what are your thoughts on the fight?
I think it's a great fight. I think Crawford wins.
Tell me, how do you think this fight goes?
Not sure. Really not sure. I think it's either a late stoppage or a decision.
Good fight?
Good fight. Very good fight.
So the fans are paying $20,000 to get their money's worth, or whatever the heck they're paying ringside.
That's not a good deal.
We got to call our friend Mr. KO Tickets, Jim Boone.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't spend that, but it's a hell of a fight. It's the best fight in boxing. So hopefully everyone tunes in.
You think it's the best fight that could possibly be made? Two guys who are probably top 6, top 7 at worst, maybe top 5 pound for pound fighters fighting against each other.
Yeah, I can't think of a better fight. How about you?
No, I think so too. I think some of the lightweight guys, they're towards the bottom of the top 10, like of those pound for pound lists. You know, we talk about Haney and Stevenson and Tank Davis. Those guys may be bunched up at the bottom, but these guys are two legitimately top 5 guys, I believe. I know yesterday we were talking, you're not so high on these pound for pound kind of lists or whatever.
No.
But they probably are 2 of the best 5 fighters in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these are 2 best welterweights right now, and they're both world champions, and they have the styles that are perfect for each other. So the reason why I go with Crawford is just I think he's more serious than Spence. Spence has a lot of trouble outside the ring with partying and the car accident, and you don't get that with Crawford. I think it all catches up with him.
On the heels of a blockbuster event that we had back in April, the 1.2 million buys reportedly with Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, do you feel that this will be a fight? I don't know if you want to say approach those numbers, but a fight that everyone's going to be happy with the numbers afterwards.
It depends on what your expectations are. I personally would be happy if I was part of that show, if everyone's reasonable. I think it does somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000 buys. I don't think it goes anywhere near 1 million or 1.2 million.
You think before all this, and I know Stephen Espinosa has mentioned about the piracy and all that stuff, before all the piracy did happen, there's always been piracy, but it's very rampant now, I believe. There's these people that are they're so savvy, I guess, and be able to pick these streams and stuff like that. Before all that came in really big time in the last handful of years, is this a fight maybe if it was 10 years ago, maybe it does 1 million buys, you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, just, Ryan Garcia was the star, and Gervonta Davis is a star, but Ryan Garcia was the guy who drove that pay-per-view. And also, you got to look at the timing. They're doing this fight at the end of July. I mean, people are at the beach. They're all hanging out. They're with their families.
115 in Vegas next
week.
It's
just not a good time to do the fight. Not that I
just hope I don't melt before the fight starts.
Right. Exactly.
You ever been out in Vegas when it's been that degrees?
Yeah, that's terrible.
Is it worse? I asked the question yesterday. 98 and humid or 115 and no humid?
98 and humid.
That's better.
I think so.
Well, here's a cliche. It's going to be hot all week in Vegas, and hopefully next Saturday night will be very hot inside the ring at the T-Mobile Arena.
What do you think?
I like Terence Crawford. I think Crawford's going to hurt him, and then I think round 8, round 9. Crawford is the best in the business at 2 things. He's the best fighter in boxing doing 2 things. The best finisher in the business, and only it's close.
Right.
When he's got a guy hurt, it's like raw steak to a pit bull.
Yeah.
And the other thing he does, he's had slow starts in some of his fights. He is the best in-fight adjuster I've seen in a long time.
Right.
Usually guys like Mayweather, they were so good from the outset. They were up 5-0, but except maybe the Zab Judah fight. Guy like Crawford, he like the Kavaliskis fight, I think a couple rounds to Sean Porter early. He figured it's almost like I'll give you a couple rounds, but what you're going to do to me, I'm going to more than make up with my adjustments. So, I mean, you have to give him.
So you think early Spence
No,
And
no,
then
I know. I don't
Crawford
think.
turns it on.
No, I don't think early. I think Spence can win some rounds early. I don't think Spence can win the fight early.
Right.
But he's just
No, you
so.
think he starts out
Yeah,
strong?
yeah. I think he'll win the first couple rounds, and once Crawford gets used to whatever his speed, his angles, his distance, the whole 9 yards, and you have to agree. And he doesn't get credit. I saw an article yesterday about how. Crawford's team, Bomac, and and they all consider themselves co-trainers. Bomac is the lead guy, but is Sal Douglas and Red Spikes. From what I understand, they all have a say in the game plan. And those guys, you have to give them credit. I mean, it's like a coach in football. I mean, if a coach is a great halftime adjuster, he gets a lot of credit, whether it's the players or not. Guys like Brian McIntyre, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
So I think this might be problematic.
Why do you say that?
Well, who's the coach of the Eagles?
Nick Sirianni.
So who's the end of the day who makes the decision?
Yeah, he does. No, but what I'm saying,
what if it's going wrong?
Like I said, it has gone. They've lost a couple rounds early in a lot of these fights, and then they
against who though?
Well, it doesn't matter against who. He's fighting world class guys. Sean Porter, Cavaliscus. These are world class. Maybe not the greatest fighters in the world. Porter was a world champion, but these are world class guys he's fighting against, and he's making those adjustments. And
no, but my point is, I think you would agree. Is Spence the best fighter that he's fought?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so even though we both picked Crawford, I would not be surprised if Spence.
I wouldn't be surprised if Spence won the fight because,
right.
I mean, just look at the odds. It's like minus 140.
Right. So do you think if we're wrong, and how old's Crawford now?
34, I think. I don't know if he's 34 or 35.
He's older than that. I don't know.
I think he's no older than 35. I know that.
Okay. So if it starts going sideways, who's he listening to in the corner?
Well, I mean, McIntyre runs the corner, but what I'm saying is all these guys, in the terms of leading up to the fight, they all have a hand in, maybe a game plan or not. I'm not saying these guys are running the corner. McIntyre, at the end of the day, I believe is the final. He's the final word.
I gotcha.
So
I always think back to when Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson. Tyson's corner was atrocious.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they were all talking over each other. He wasn't listening.
But the thing about that, I don't know if it was Tommy Brooks. I don't know. I forgot.
It was Ronnie Shields. Was it Brooks?
So Tyson went through 22 trainers after Kevin Rooney. So it was probably the first, maybe at most a second fight with whoever he was working with that fight. These guys have been together since. In fact, who
was that? It was Ronnie Shields, and who was the other?
I forgot who it was. But as Bomac said, I guess he was on a conference call or something. They asked him. He's known Crawford before he was even born because he was friends with Crawford's dad and his mom back then. And he said he remembered Terence in the womb. So I mean, he's known these guys.
Right.
I mean, McIntyre's been the only voice as long as Crawford's known, so of course it's who he's going to, or not the only voice, but the main voice.
So, that's good. That's good when it works out.
So we got that. We've got some other fights in the works. Well, what fight do you want to see coming up? That maybe isn't made, or maybe is on the horizon.
It's a good question.
I mean, Usyk and Fury.
Wilder Joshua,
just for like, just and it depends who you listen to. What Eddie Hearn is saying, the fight's pretty much done.
Yeah.
Should Joshua get by Dillian White, which I think he will. Dillian White looked like a shell of himself over when he fought Fury, and he was just very ordinary against Jermaine Franklin. Barely escaped with a win in a fight that most people, at least half the people, thought Franklin should have won it, or worse, get a draw.
Right.
So I mean, Wilder got destroyed by Fury in that fight before he took out Helenius, but he was at least he knocked Fury down twice in that fight. So
Wilder's great.
Yeah,
say what you will about him. He's gonna go in there. He's gonna make a fun fight. And same with Joshua.
Yeah, he's gotta get you a little bit more in the frame here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we gotta get these ratings going.
Right.
So, as you see, we're at the Banner Promotions offices. See our buddy Alcelino Freitas over Matt's left shoulder there. So let's go down some of the divisions. Lightweight, we have Tank Davis.
Right.
Devin Haney, maybe he moves up, maybe he doesn't.
Right.
Shakur Stevenson. Out of those three, who do you think when the dust settles, if they all get in the ring together, who do you think is the man between those three fighters?
That's
why I asked nothing but the good questions here.
I guess I would say not Devin Haney. I don't think Devin Haney beats either of them. And as much as I would want Gervonta Davis to beat Shakur Stevenson, I don't know if that happens.
It's one of those kind of skills pay the bills.
Right. So I think it's better if we don't see that fight either way.
Because I was telling you before we went on the air, Gervonta Davis, he's must see TV. You mentioned you just mentioned Wilder and just watching his fights. Gervonta Davis is in that stratosphere now where the fight's going to most likely be a knockout, and there's going to be some explosive punch, and for television and for entertainment value, Gervonta Davis is definitely at the top of the list.
Like, do you want to see Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney?
I mean, I want to see it because I think they're two skilled guys. I want to see who's got the better skills. But all things being equal, I want to see Gervonta Davis fight.
So who would you rather him fight? Because if I'm making the fight, just the
I think Haney would make for a better quote television style type of fight.
I think Kambosos.
Well,
throw him in there.
Well, he's fighting this Saturday night, and he can take a big step towards that, beating Maxie Hughes this Saturday in Oklahoma. Just trying to think what other fights we have coming up. The top rank.
What do you think of Canelo and Charlo?
Very interesting. We're gonna see that night if Canelo. I mean, Canelo definitely. We've seen the best of him, but we're gonna see how far down the mountain he really is that night. I mean, is he just over the mountain or is he further down the mountain?
Yeah.
Because Jamel Charlo is one thing about him, or a couple things about him. He can do a little bit of everything. He's a very good boxer. He's shown in his last few punches. I remember when they were both coming up, they always say Jamal was the puncher, Jamel's the boxer. I mean, Jamel's had some really vicious and solid knockouts.
Yeah.
So
he got a lot better when he left Ronnie Shields.
And I don't think the weight makes too much of a difference. I really don't. No, because he's 6'1". Canelo's barely 5'8". I stood next to him. I'm 5'7.5". He's got a little bit on me, and I think Charlo's skill. Charlo can do it all, and he's still in the prime of his career. He's been fighting somewhat regularly. Yeah, he's had a couple injury problems, but the fights against Castano and prove that he's a legit guy. And he probably walks around at probably 175, 180 pounds anyway. So,
it's interesting.
I mean, I think
a year ago you wouldn't think that was
probably not. No, probably not. I mean, especially before the Bivol fight,
right?
Where if there were, I mean, we're gonna find out. Was it just a bad style? And even the John Ryder fight, he was fine, but he wasn't earth shattering in that fight. Dropped him once, bloodied him, but he didn't really beat the crap out of him like most people thought he was going to.
Yeah. Well, how old's Canelo now?
I think he turned 33 yesterday or the day before.
He's been fighting for what?
18 years, I think, as a pro. So
yeah, forget it. It's a lot of miles on those tires.
So we got some good fights. Some good.
What? He struggled against Amir Khan before he iced him.
And you know what?
That was a smaller guy. He was going to be a lot faster.
I think he was down like 4 rounds to 1. Yeah. He definitely lost the fourth. The fifth, I think it was.
Everyone was just waiting for the knockout to happen. But I'm saying, though, he struggled with this speed. So even though he's fighting the smaller guy, he might struggle. So
anything else you want to get out there? Or anything else about the boxing world on the horizon?
Oh, well, so you got me at 500,000 for the pay-per-view buys.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think it will do higher. I don't know what high, maybe 700,000-800,000, maybe. I don't know. I think it'll do higher. And, I'll get a good sense next week when I'm out there of what the buzz is in terms of, and I know all those people are on site, but you can get a feel of the buzz of people clamoring for the fight.
But does it suck in the average fan?
I've had a couple of my friends say they're going to watch the fight.
Right. Even with the podcast?
No, I just don't know any of that stuff.
Right.
I actually think that this fight next Saturday night is a placeholder for the expected coronation in the next year of our neighbor right up the road here in North Philadelphia in Germantown, Jerome Buchanan.
Yeah.
What did you think of his performance a couple weeks ago?
Very good.
Nasty,
Very good fighter, yeah. Very good fighter.
Just looking at what he fought Romain Villa, who's not Spence, he's not Crawford. If it's Jaron Ennis in that ring next Saturday night against either of those guys, would you give him more than a good chance to win that fight?
I think he's probably the favorite. I mean, he's just younger. I mean, Crawford. I don't know. I don't know if he's the favorite, but he's right in there. He's right in there. He's the real deal.
Yeah, he's a real deal.
So,
all right, well, that's it. I can't wait. I got almost 16 minutes out of you.
Yeah, enjoy it. Anytime, Mark.
Thank you for joining me.
All right.